the step I've been waiting for. Now that we have these unidirectional strips in place, now we can actually start trimming and putting in the bulkheads, and that's going to really change the feel of the boat. So today what I'm doing is trimming off this excess fiberglass. So now today what I'm doing is I'm trimming these off, getting them close to final width. And for that, all I'm doing is I'm using a jigsaw to go around the edge. I did try using a trim bit on a router, a carbide tip trim bit. It was slow and wasn't as good as I thought it would for that finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm just using a jigsaw with a carbide bit in it. But so I'll go around those, and then I'll be able to drop them in each one of those slots and just see how they fit. But today what I'm doing is I am doing bulkhead 1, bulkhead 2, bulkhead 3, 4, and 5. So 4 and 5 are the big ones that go across, transverse from side to side. The other ones are the ones that start from the bow and kind of work their way back. But going to trim those down, get them all set, and then we can start placing things and just seeing how it all looks.
After 8 years of the nomadic life, involving crossing oceans in a 34-foot Sabre, refitting an aluminum boat, and then taking that to the Arctic Circle, we're back at it again with a brand new build. This is Matt, and I'm Jessica. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and join us every week as we start our newest project of building a 42-foot catamaran from the ground up. We have got a secret project going on in addition to the catamaran, and I think it's about time we finally brought it up on camera, and that is we've got a new home. Some of you that have been following us since we arrived to Annapolis knew that part of the awesome deal we're getting here at Kentmorr Marina on Kent Island is the owner gave us a 35-foot sport fishing boat, a Viking, to live on during our time here at the marina, free of charge as long as we did some work to fix it up and get it ready to sell. And so the plan originally had been that we would stay on it for the 2 years or so that we're here doing the build, and then we would get it sold, but it turns out he had a potential buyer much sooner than that. And of course he asked us and said, you know, like, you're more than welcome to stay on it for the 2 years. That's what we agreed upon. But we said, no, if you have a buyer for it, go ahead and take it. So even though we just moved on to it about a month ago, we're actually getting it ready to hand over to the new owner in a few months. But because we need something to live on in the meantime, we have now actually purchased this 31-foot pacemaker. So we're getting that ready to go into the water now as well. Which means for me, while Matt is busy inside of the tent, trimming bulkheads, getting those ready, kind of a one-person job anyway, I am stripping the bottom so we can get it ready for a barrier coat and bottom coat before we splash it. So lots of tough work, building up some muscles, but it feels actually kind of good to be outside doing some work again.
You said, baby, I'm not feeling it lately, but I hope we can be friends, don't you? You said maybe if things weren't so crazy, I could love you like I used to do.
So as you can tell, this boat as well is going to need a lot of cleaning and a lot of love, but the good thing is that we can kind of just go at our own pace. We really have 2 years until we have to worry about getting her on the market, when we're hopefully getting ready to take off on the catamaran. So we can put as much of our attention toward the catamaran as we want. We basically just have to get this ready to splash and move our stuff aboard. And as you can see, I've been working on the bottom here to get that ready, going in stages. First went through with just like a paint scraper here, a little 1-inch 3-sided, 1.5 inch, to get some of like the bigger flakes off. And then over the past couple days, and hopefully finishing today with this orbital sander here, The tent right behind us here is the one that the bird noises are coming from that we can hear all the way from inside our tent too, so that's pretty funny. I'll be popping in some earbuds though, won't be able to hear it at all. But yep, so we've got the other side done. I have to do a little bit here, and then that bit, call it good. Get it ready for some barrier paint.
Then you kiss me goodbye and wish me the best in life. Said you needed some time to figure yourself out, but I knew right there you would come back here any day just to tell me you regret everything you said on the day. 'Cause I know that you came. You say you do so well without me. You say you feel so good without me.
All right, so with a carbide blade, we got 2 bulkheads cut. I'm gonna try the diamond blade now and see if that's any better. Hopefully that's better because it's not a great ratio.
The way you hit the spiral, thinking on your own. Lover, lover, take some time to recover. Don't go chase another high too soon. Honey, honey, I know breakups ain't funny. Still you're smiling at me like a fool. Then you kiss me goodbye.
Here is my evidence of working for the past about an hour and a half. This is what I was able to do. Cut off the bulkhead pieces. That diamond blade, amazing how much of a difference it made over just a regular carbide blade. I got through probably 5, and 2 of them were the really, really long bulkheads with the long cuts on them. And I would have been able to get probably another 5 off of it, but ended up bending it one too many times and finally snapped it. But yeah, just what a difference between those 2 things. And also cut really smooth too because it doesn't have any serrated edges. It's just that grit on there. What a cool tool. So I'll have to get some more.
Well, I have worked enough for my 4 batteries to run out of power, and my arms are pretty much becoming jello now, so I'm going to call it a day. But there was a lot of success. I was able to pretty much get everything done. Bird tent. We'll try that again. I was able to pretty much get everything under there done. There's a few areas where there's like little curves or yeah, and just the orbital sander didn't get in there well, so I'll be hitting that again later. But total success. Yeah, just like pop in my little Soundcore earbuds, listen to some Pandora or Spotify, just work the day away, and pretty soon I think this is going to be ready for some bottom paint. Oh, but one funny thing I want to mention, at least the other day, the way I was doing it, Matt asked me if my arms are really tired, and I told him no because I wasn't using them at all, which left him very confused. But for the higher areas that I was doing, I found it easier to like sit on some blocks and just like get my knees up and support my hand on my leg. So that way I was not using any of my like really biceps or triceps to push the sander in. I was just kind of like resting it in my hand and pushing my leg in, which I'm sure I'll have plenty of bruises on my like thighs now from that. But then for the back area, I did find it just easier to like lay on my back and press up, but I don't think I can feel my hands anymore.
Well, I found out the reason why I was having such bad luck with the router and a trim bit. You might be able to see it, but somewhere along the way I lost the bearing on the end of it. There's supposed to be a bearing right about there that allows it to kind of trace itself around. Have no idea where I lost it or when I lost it, but that would explain why it kept digging into everything and was just going really, really slow. Just a lot of force behind it. So there's a reason. Okay, with no trimming, this is how 1, 2, and 3 kind of fit in their respective places. You can see there is a gap here. There's supposed to be a gap, not that much, but what I'll have to do is just trim down this bottom corner here, and then that's going to kind of push that in there. I already did it on the other side, but kind of gives you an idea of how they come right out of the factory. Now we can see the first bulkhead, just right where that flange is what's kind of holding it in place, or out of place, I guess. So if I round that down, then that should plop into place. Bulkhead 2 just, again, needs some trimming along that edge, and it should go right into place. And then same thing with this one. These are the positions that they're going to be sitting permanently, or close to it at least at this point. And then once that gets all done and this is trimmed properly to this side, eventually when we put the deck in, then we'll fill in any gap or adjust it as needed from the top. Same thing with the hull side too. Once that goes in place, that will get filled in with foam or foam taken off, depending on what's needed to make sure that we get everything nice and fair. So spent the day more fun with the laser level. I do have a reference point now at the top. And what that is, they gave me the dimensions from that absolute top edge there, the length of it. We know from this side now that the center line is 389 millimeters inboard, so towards the center. Well, all I have to do then is set up my trusty little laser level. This is my brightest one. Right here at this point, which is, we know is the center line, that's a fixed point already. And shoot it up our bulkhead there and see where that orientates with that 389 millimeters. So far, it is off about 9 millimeters. And what that's indicating right now is that it's actually twisting this direction inboard too far, probably about 10 degrees. So what I need to do is I need to actually trim off this side, the exact opposite of what I thought I needed to do. But I'll trim off this side, that will twist this back outboard. And then when we put this hull panels, that side piece on, it should then sit nice and flush over there. For the inboard side, we do see this gap here already. Now this inner hull panel is sitting up against those plywood forms that we have. So we know that that point's correct. And we measured across from side to side, and that's actually right too. So what it is just the bulkhead. It was not really wide enough through this section. And what we'll do to correct that is we'll take the same thickness and we'll just cut wedges into the shape that's to fill in that area, fill in that gap. And then when it comes time to actually bond this in place, we'll bond that little piece in. And then when we tape over it with a fiberglass, no harm, no foul. So no big deal at all. Easy to fix, and it's a very, very common thing that you do on these types of boats. But we'll make quick work of this. I'll get it lined up and leveled out, and we'll kind of go from there. Way off of this one. I already tried trimming it to make it fit over here before I consulted with the designer. Bad idea. So I'm going to need to rotate it this direction. So all I got to do is just trace. And one thing with the bulkheads is they do require a gap around them. You don't want them setting tight against the hull on either side. What that does is that creates a hard spot, and you'll see it on some boats if you walk through a boatyard and you look down their sides and you can see kind of a waviness on specific points at a certain distance away that are vertical. That means that the bulkhead is pressing against that and kind of distorting the hull itself. You don't want that. So you do want a gap between this, and then what holds this in place is that fiberglass, and that's what actually gives us the strength of those fiberglass tapes and coping that you end up putting in. So again, yeah, I'll just cut it out and see how it goes. That's going to be the project right now. I will suit up, get into my full PPE setup, and be able to cut back this fiberglass and cut back the foam. And then
setting this back down, seeing how we are with level, and then doing that process all over again if I need to.
Hey there everyone, we hope you enjoyed this week's episode and our big surprise that we're moving off of the Viking here soon and onto like this little 31-foot sport boat. So we're trying to enjoy all of our afternoons and evenings here while we can. Just watching the sun go down, smelling the Old Bay from the restaurant.
Yeah, that's definitely there.
It's definitely there.
It's a Maryland thing.
Time for question and answer section. And one of the things that came up from our last video was actually from the opening scene where Matt's DeWalt sander had failed on us after a few months, which was sad. And if you notice, we do have a lot of yellow DeWalt tools that started back in the fall when one of our wonderful followers just kind of like set us up with a supply of
Yeah,
DeWalt.
just an absolute ton of tools, gives a really good base with a bunch of batteries. So of course, ever since then, I have gone on the DeWalt website and ordered just about every other tool that possibly is made there. That sander, a lot of people thought it was a drill because it is that pistol grip, it is that drill shape to it, but no, it is in fact a sander that they make. It's just a really good shape for working on a boat. It's ergonomic, but the biggest thing is it allows you to reach into places because you don't have the tool body behind it. It's just an awesome tool for that type of shape. Makita makes one. There's a few others that make that same type of setup. The DeWalt is actually the most powerful. It's 6 amps, and it comes with the dust attachment shroud built right into it. So that's the reason why this person sent it to us, is because it is actually should be a good tool for this. And a lot of boat builders actually do use the same product. Ours just failed.
Unfortunately, we cannot use like a proof of purchase to get it replaced because it was a gift. So that one we're unfortunately out, but that's okay because as we said, we received so many other things as gifts that we don't mind. We don't have to go out and purchase
And
a
I
few
did
of our
replace it with another DeWalt, same model. I'm going to give that a shot. If that one fails, then yes, I will switch to something else. But it's pretty affordable. It's like $75, $80 if you find them on sale. But it's just a good shape to do what we needed to do.
And then the other question that was coming up in last week's video with the unidirectional, some of the questions we had answered in previous videos, so I'll try and go back to a few of those comments and link back to where we addressed it before. But just in general, we've had a lot of people asking, like, how do you get your information to do this? How do you know what step you need to do next, or how much of whatever materials you need? And we have a really good manual from Max Cruise, but we're actually working with them too to see how we can like beef it up for future builders.
Yeah, since we're being the first boat that they're doing this way, they're used to dealing with professionals, of course, and they don't quite know exactly what the amateurs are thinking, what's going through their mind. So we're kind of springboarding or bouncing these ideas off of them, saying, okay, this could make it easier for us, just a husband-wife team or a single person trying to build this boat. What would make it easier for them? And so that it kind of going back and forth. But I talk to them almost daily. Have a pretty good relationship going with them, of course, over the year that we've been dealing with them now. And or they've been dealing with us.
They've been dealing with us more.
More.
That's the good way to say it.
So it is a great relationship going there, and so we do go through and just a lot of these things, just trying to figure out the details, different ways things work. But I have looked at the manuals for a lot of other boats, and this is
much more information.
Huge how much information this manual actually does have in it, but it is proprietary information. It is their intellectual property, so that's the reason why we don't post a lot of it. They have given us permission to do some extra stuff to post some of that stuff in there, but a lot of it is just they put a lot of effort into making this manual, making it nice and full for someone building this boat, and I don't want to just sit there and post it online. That's just not fair to them. them.
So that's how we know what to do, and we will never call ourselves like professionals or anything, or
Oh,
know how.
no, not even
So
close,
our
yeah.
videos are never going to be like a how to build a max cruise, but we are kind of hoping too that we put the information out there for any future builders, that they at least like get a sense of what's going on, and you know, they can probably contact us with questions or contact Max Cruise.
Oh yeah, especially if they use us as a referral.
Use us as a referral.
we get a little bit.
We get a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. But that was kind of the idea of us going through and doing this build, was the fact that we were again going to find the areas, the things that needed to be done that the factory didn't know that needed to be done in this order and stuff, and we didn't either. So things simple like bonding the bridge deck before you start trying to align everything, those two pieces of the bridge deck together, we found out after the fact that, yeah, it actually needs to be done first before you start trying to align everything. So there's just little things like that we've gone through that the next builders won't have to deal with.
So I think those were the two biggest questions, and make sure to stay tuned for next week's episode where we actually place our first bulkheads in permanently. You saw Matt kind of cutting them and fitting them in this episode, but next week they're getting glassed in and things are going to change. It is my favorite time of the week again, where I get to add new patron names to the walls of our catamaran, which again is going to be in one of our forward storage locker areas. We're going to keep extra sails and fenders, so we're never going to paint over this area or cover it. If your name is up here, it is up here for good. And this week I've gone through and added the patrons that have been with us with our time in the Azores after we had just done the Atlantic crossing, and then we got ourselves up to the British Isles in Norway and through Scotland. That was all, I think, in the early summer of 2018, so thank you to all of those patrons who have been with us for so long now. And I am starting to get to the bottom here, which is really cool, starting to fill this side up, move on to a next section, and I don't know where I will move next, if I'm going to keep crawling into this area here, because I definitely wore the wrong shoes for this. Yeah. Flip-flops without a floor. Next time, might go there, it's a little easier. But anyway, let's give a quick shout out to a few of our patrons up here on the wall. We have got Bob Gutschow, which has been a long time supporter of us, very big, lots of messages back and forth. Greg Zivic. We've had many conversations with him, actually even over on text messaging now. We had the chance to meet him when we were in Michigan. He's supposed to be coming up here sometime to help us with the catamaran, so we're very excited about that. And then we have John and Lainey Miller. They live just outside of where my parents do in Arizona, so when we were back there a few months ago, we had the chance to get together with them. They took us out in the mountains all day on a side-by-side. We had the most wonderful time, so we're very thankful we had the chance to meet them. And so stay tuned to next week, where I figure out which wall I'm going to start writing on next. But if you're interested in getting your name up here as well, make sure to check out our Patreon page. I've got the link in the description box below, or you can follow it up here. So check that out, and hopefully we will be getting your name up on this wall as well.
Give me your freedom. Whoa, yeah, let me to pieces. Yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium. Life is so easy. Whoa, you let me to pieces. Yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium.